Hello. This is the podcast, Women Need to Do Better. And when we hear about what other women go through, we judge them. We judge them against ourselves because we all have stories of what we think they should do and what we would do if we were in their shoes and how they should do better. And that's why this podcast was created, because we also judge ourselves, and sometimes really harshly when you think about it. And that's where the lies start. The lies that we tell ourselves that we're already doing the best we can, but we still convince ourselves that we aren't and that we're not doing enough. And even with the weight of everything on our plate, we have a hard time convincing ourselves that what we got and what we're doing is enough. We can't shut our brains off. We feel guilty when we try to take time for ourselves. And we quietly question our lives as we compare them to what we see on the surface for other people. That's what this podcast is about. Having honest conversations with the thoughts in our heads, why we can't change certain things, and what it can look like when we do. And we can finally live lighter. Hello, everybody. Thank you for joining us on Women Need to Do Better. I appreciate you spending your time with me as we take a different perspective on the thoughts that are bouncing around in our heads and why we need to do all those things that we've been handling. And we are really good at staying busy. I'm your host, Shelly Kirschenman. And if you're new to me, thank you so much for popping in and listening. And if you're one of my regulars, I really appreciate you coming back for more. We are in week 3 of our 6-week series, or halfway point, where we are talking about relationships and the different dynamics that they bring to our lives. The beginning, we introduced you to Rose, and she just wanted her bubble bath at the end of the day so she can decompress. Go listen to that if you haven't heard that episode. And then last week, we talked about Trish, and all she wanted was some time to do her homework. And her partner helped out, but there was some conditions with how he expected her to use her time. And today we are talking about a different kind of relationship. Maybe somebody that is in your life, maybe somebody that looks a little bit like your life. And I want you to listen to this woman's story. And as you listen, just hear it. Don't judge, and see if you can pick whether you were that friend or you were her. So last week, when we met Trish, we left off with her on that Saturday, staying up till the early hours of the morning just to try to finish up her schoolwork. And she wasn't able to do that because she does all the things, the invisible tasks around the house that just seem to get done and nobody else seems to notice. And when her partner came back after giving her some time away with the kids, he expected her to be ready to go out and have dinner. And she couldn't find the words to explain to her partner that being given time, but being free to use it how she needs are not the same thing. And so we'll come back to Trish later. There's a lot more going on in her life. But today I want you to be aware of that friend. And I do want to take some time to just thank all the women that have allowed me to share their stories, share their lives with the world so that other women can see that they aren't alone. And it's not easy to open up your life to strangers on the internet, right? And let them see your vulnerabilities. But it's part of what's needed, because all of us women, we struggle with the same things, but we feel like we're alone in this. So I want you to introduce you to Annie. She is single, young, beautiful, traveled the world, studied abroad. Currently, said she's single. She has no partner. She has no kids, but she was able to build a life entirely on her own terms. And it's generally a really great life. And I've known her and worked with her for quite some time, so I've earned a few bragging rights, stuff that she probably would be too humble to say about herself. She is educated. She bought a house. She's traveled the world. She's worked her ass off to get where she's at, where she's probably half or even more than half her colleagues' ages, but she's got twice the experience as them. So she's worked her way up to a lead project manager in a mid-sized company. And on paper, she's absolutely thriving. It's amazing. And I'm so proud of her. And she has accomplished so many things. And I will say, one of the things that when people look at her, they make a lot of judgments. Like, oh, her life is so easy because she's so pretty. Or that, oh, she probably got the position in the company because she's pretty. And for whatever reason, and sometimes we women are guilty of that too. And a little bit of that might be our jealousy, even if we don't want to admit that. And the jealousy could come from, well, she's got time because she's single and she's not trying to manage kids and a husband and a career and all these things. And both of those are true. She doesn't have those things, and maybe you do. But everybody's life has layers of complication from whatever choices they've made. And it doesn't make it easier than yours or harder than yours. It's just different. So that's where I want you to kind of come to this story and just listen, be open, and try not to compare. Just try to see the world through Annie's eyes. Because as I tell this story and how I describe her, like I said, she's young, she's already bought a house. And a lot of her friends don't have houses, even though they have families. Some of them do, some of them don't. And there is definitely a difference in what your lifestyle looks like. And I'm talking about generally. If you are married with kids, money has to stretch farther versus if you're single, no kids. You can spend your money more freely on the things that you want and how you want to do whatever it is that you want to do for your life. It's just an observation. Just notice. This is not a judgment. So you might be listening to this story kind of thinking, what does she have to complain about? And that's the thought I want you to hold on to, because that's exactly the types of things that Annie struggles with every day. So I want to take you to a scene in her life. And I'm just going to kind of paint the picture so you can kind of meet me where we're at with Annie on this particular day. Okay. So for 3 weeks, she has been trying to get together this idea. I mean, it's been longer than 3 weeks, but 3 weeks in the workings where she wanted to get together with her people, her real people, her closest friends, her support system. She wanted to hang out with the girls. They haven't been doing that. They haven't done that in a long time. And you probably understand that life gets busy, especially when you have, a family and a husband and all the things, right? And it takes up a lot of our focus. And so this is a dinner that she was really, really looking forward to, where she could actually talk, when girls get together and we can just be us. And this is the kind of dinner where you're actually having those conversations of how you're really doing, and you're waiting for the answer, and you're catching up with each other. And it's something that she had been sitting with for a while, that she was finally ready to say out loud with the women, her besties, her people that she trusts the most. And so Annie, she does what Annie always does. She thought about everybody else's schedule. She even rearranged her own schedule to make it work, because she understands the dynamics of her friends. It's not just their schedules, it's their spouses' schedules or significant other schedules, it's the kids' schedules, it's the extended obligation schedules, all of it. So she was finally able to narrow it down to a day, a Thursday, about midweek, found a wonderful restaurant that was equidistant from all of her friends, had a menu that was decent. Everybody could find something that they wanted on the menu. It was in an area that had adequate parking. It wasn't in a congested place where it was hard to get from wherever they were coming from to there. So she's thinking about all these little details. It's going to be quiet enough so that they could actually have a conversation without trying to shout. And she booked the reservations for 7:30. And of course, closer to this Thursday, it's really important to her. She's something that she's really, looking forward to sharing, and it's something that she needed because if you think about it, she's single, so she doesn't go home to somebody to be able to share certain things about how her day went or something that she's been brewing up and contemplating and bounce ideas off of. So she sends out the group text, kind of confirming everybody's still showing up. Here's the restaurant, address, all the things, right? And she does this, like day or two before the actual girls' night out. She's so looking forward to this, so excited. And she's thinking about all the things that, how she's going to tell them about this thing that's been sitting with her. And she's like, okay. So she's a natural planner. She has that attention to detail. And she knows that the restaurant that she's got a backup plan and a backup plan for that backup plan, just in case. Because you never know. Like you can make reservations at a restaurant and show up and, maybe there was some kind of a road construction or an accident or whatever. I mean, things happen. So she did all that work, 3 weeks in the making. It's the day. She's super excited. She got off work a little bit early. She's getting things all prepped. And she's at home. She is the farthest from the restaurant, by the way. This was the most inconvenient restaurant for her, but she understands and it didn't bother her. It's fine. So she's getting ready. She has to leave about an hour early just so that she can get there on time. And she wants to get there a little bit early just to make sure that, the traffic isn't terrible. There's no accidents. And if she needs to pivot, she can. So she's getting ready about 6:13, almost 45 minutes or, well, a little over an hour before the dinner. Her phone buzzes and it's her friend Sarah. And so she looks down at the phone, her text. And it's like, hey, Jake had this thing fall through. Is it okay if he comes? Annie reads it. She pauses for a moment. And so, of course, she texts back. Of course, the more the merrier. So she calls the restaurant, adds a seat. Not a big deal. Shifts a little bit of what she had intended this girls only dinner, but it's okay. She's used to rolling with the punches. Then, 8 minutes later, 6:21, gets another text. Bzz. Now it's Meg. And Meg says, Dylan is free and wants to tag along. Would it be weird if he came? It's okay if you say no. And he reads it. She rereads it again. You can totally say no. And she knew that she wasn't going to say no. So she responds, nope, not weird at all. We'll make it a party. So she calls the restaurant back again. And she adds another seat. But now there's too many of them. So she has to rearrange, get a bigger table. Luckily, there was room, so they moved them to the back room so that way they can accommodate the larger party. So she quietly kind of cancels the actual thing that she was looking forward to for the last 3 weeks. The thing that she was going to say, she puts it back in her nightstand, wrapped, and she goes to the dinner. She laughs in all the right places. They share light stories of catching up with each other's lives. And she spends most of that evening listening to what's going on in everyone else's life. The kids, oh my gosh, you'll never guess what they do. Little Jake is doing now. And she loves hearing this. She absolutely loves her friends, their kids. That is her extended family. Oh, right. You should totally see the expression that Julie gives when oh my gosh, she's growing up too fast. Oh, the conversations cover everything because it's been a while. And so they're talking, they're enjoying each other's company. She gets along with everybody. Everybody's having a good time. I mean, dinner's amazing, great desserts, a little bit of a midnight cap drinking. And after dinner wraps up, Annie drives home alone. And she's going through her head, you know, she's trying to justify her feelings. She's thinking, I planned this. For 3 weeks, I've been planning this. And I've thought about everybody's schedule. I picked a restaurant that was close to them, that made it convenient. I thought about the food. I thought about the date. I confirmed with the girls a couple days before, and they were all excited. We were all excited about being just us girls. It's a long overdue catch up. And then I spent the entire evening making room for everybody else. Why do I feel like this? And then how do I tell them? Am I right to feel like this? I mean, they didn't do anything wrong. So when she gets home, she just gets home. Her dog's waiting for her, and she doesn't text anybody. And she doesn't text anybody because they don't know what they did, and they don't know how she felt. And if she said something, they'd feel bad, and she knows that. But it still hurts. And as you listen to what unraveled for Annie, here's what I want you to see. Her friend, Sarah, asked to include somebody. Totally missing the idea of that was supposed to be a girls' night. Then Meg, you can totally say no. And when she said you can totally say no, she wasn't really leaving room for Annie to actually say no. When people say you can totally say no, or they verbally give that out to decline, it's a kindness that protects the person who's actually asking for more than it allows the person who's being asked to feel like they can decline. And Annie knows that. So she says yes. Because Annie is considerate like that. And she knows what it means to Meg. But with all the consideration that Annie had in planning this whole evening for the girls, here's something I want you to understand about consideration. Consideration, which is what Annie did when she picked the restaurant, when she thought about everybody's drive, when she was thinking about what they drive and what the parking lot looks like, and the timelines of when they get off work, from the directions that they're coming from, what the restaurant had for a menu option. She knows her friends that well. And she thought of everybody else's timeline, everybody else's lives. And what her friends did when they did those asks is they assumed that Annie would do what Annie always does. Be flexible. Be easygoing. Make room. Pivot to accommodate. The thing that Annie's friends don't pay attention to is that Annie isn't actually more flexible than them. Annie still has a busy schedule. She still has obligations. She still has priorities in her life. They just look different than theirs. And it's not that Annie's life is more flexible because she's not trying to accommodate kids, a partner, other things. It's just that Annie's more considerate, and those two are not the same. Flexibility means that you don't mind adjusting or pivoting or accommodating, and it comes when plans are already made. It's the after. That's the flexibility part. Consideration means that you've thought about everybody else before you thought about yourself. And that's what Annie did every single time before she sent that very first text. And the gap, that's the gap that Annie shows where her loneliness lives. It's the difference between what Annie shows to her friends, coming across as easygoing, easier life friend, right? Versus how she feels. And loneliness looks like that smile on her face in that mixed company dinner that was supposed to be a girls' night only, when she really needed it just to be her voice. And loneliness looks like getting shortchanged in a plan that she made for her. It looks like putting your friends and their life situations over yours. It looks like being invisible to your friends because she is who she is. Annie does what she does. And it's gone on for so long that her friends, they just rely on her instinctively to do it because it's not about Annie. And if Annie were to try to say something, as she has in the past, it stings a little when your friends who have obligations treat you like you don't understand because you're not married, or you wouldn't understand because you have kids. It's not all about you. Like somehow Annie's life is so much easier to rearrange because her life doesn't look like yours. And that's where the friend math is, right? Everyone talks about getting together, but no one takes any action. So Annie's usually the one that has to initiate it. She's the first to text. She's the first to plan things, first to follow up if no one's, moved it forward. And Annie ends up working around her friends' schedules, her friends' partners' schedules, her friends' kids' schedules. And then when they cancel on her, which probably happens more often than she'd like to admit, she handles it gracefully. Oh, no worries at all. We can reschedule. It's okay. And she means it. She's not bitter. She's not upset. Disappointed, yeah, maybe I would be. But when they say they'll reschedule, guess who that falls on as well? It becomes Annie's job to reschedule it too. And so even though Annie puts forth all this energy to connect with her friends, it's something that they just don't notice. And if Annie went quiet, even for a week or two, nobody calls in to check. Nobody texts her and says, hey, I haven't connected with you for a while. Are you okay? Nobody notices that she went quiet. And it's not because they're mean or they're ignoring her or any of that. It's because they weren't tracking her. They are so wrapped up in their own busy lives. We all do, right? We all get there. And because they're so busy focusing on all the things that are going on in their own life, they don't even see that Annie's the one that's been carrying the friendship all along. And she's just been so willing to carry it. And so it just keeps on going. Now, don't get me wrong. Annie's friends, they love her. They genuinely, deeply love her. And they aren't bad friends. They're just not paying attention to what it's costing her. And part of that is because she never lets them see the cost. Because the things that Annie thinks but won't say out loud, which is why I'm doing this podcast, so that way it can give you insight to your single friends and what they might be going through, the load that they carry, that invisible load that's partly on you. She thinks about things that have come up where they cancel or she has to pivot, she changes. And she's thinking, I'm not more flexible than you. She has a busy life. She has obligations. They just look different. And she's just more considerate. And she's so tired of flexibility being treated as the same as being considerate. She thinks about their schedules, their partners, their kids' bedtimes. She even thinks about what's easier for them and following up, sending them texts so that way they don't forget because life happens. But she wonders, does anybody ever think about her? And she thinks this, and she doesn't want to sound bitter, so she doesn't really say anything. But she keeps showing up for them, for their partners, for their kids. And she goes on pretending that that friendship math is even, and it never has been. So when you think about Annie, and maybe the Annie in your life, recognize that Annie's time is not less valuable because it looks less complicated. Her schedule's not easier to adjust just because she doesn't have kids or doesn't have a partner. And her being flexible is something that she chooses. It is her choice, not something that the world's entitled to take from her. And she does freely give it, but she just wishes that it wasn't so invisible, that somebody would take the time to think of her. But the problem is the people that love you, your friends, can't change a pattern that they don't know exists. And because Annie never told Sarah or Meg or any of her friends that she needed the dinner to just be the girls when they asked. That was the original plan. And of course, she said the more the merrier, because ultimately she knew that it was probably going to be the only way that she was going to get her to see her friends that night. And Sarah believed that she was fine with it because Annie was really good at performing to be fine. So at the beginning of this podcast, I told you that I was going to introduce you to a different kind of woman. And I hope that as you listen to Annie's story, it did open your eyes and helped you understand that just because you're single or because your life looks different than what society builds up as what is supposed to happen, because that's really where a lot of that load that Annie carries comes from. As a society, we are taught you go to school, you go to college, you get a good job, you get married, you have kids, you buy the house, all the things, all those things. But it doesn't work for everybody. That's not everybody's lot in life. That's not everybody's goal. But because the majority have that goal, when you are outside of the majority, it's a little harder to be understood. And so when I introduced you to Annie, I hope that you can kind of see the invisible load that she carries and why she doesn't just share it. Because I also said we judge other people based on our own opinions of what we would do in their situation, which is normal. That is absolutely a natural thing to do. And I want you to reflect when you were listening, what thoughts came up to you? Did you feel like she should have just told her friends? She should have been honest, right? Because we always talk about honesty. Just tell them how you're feeling. And think about if you were Annie and you said how you were feeling, how easy would that be to explain to people that have kids, are married? And if you were that married friend, would you have received it as well? Those are things that we all carry. The different perspectives of how we truly feel and how do we communicate that to those we love and how is it going to be received? So when you listen to Annie's story, did you judge her? Did you pick a side? Did you see anything from Annie's perspective that opened your eyes? Did you learn anything? And if you have an Annie in your life, do one thing this week. Text her first. Not because you feel guilty, but just because. Because she popped into your head. Because you love her. Because she's important to you. And because you noticed. And that text could mean more than you know. And if you are an Annie, I see you. You are not invisible. So we're going to pause right there on Annie's story because where we're leaving her right now is where she still hasn't said it. Not to Sarah, not to Meg, not to anyone. And that thing that she needed to say that Thursday, that thing that she put back in her nightstand, for now it's going to have to wait. But we will come back to her because she's not still there. But all the women that I am introducing you to through this next 6 weeks, I want you to recognize that these women are high achievers. They're smart, they're beautiful, they're successful. And they've trusted me with their stories and allowed me to share them with you. And I love that all of them have given me permission to show the shortcomings of their lives, their hurt, their vulnerabilities, and the work that they put in, the way that they've turned all of this around, the way that they've leveled up their lives so they can live lighter, so they're not carrying such an invisible mental load. And so next Monday, the woman that I'm going to introduce you to, I need you to prepare yourself because this next woman that I want you to meet, she does have some triggers. Because Lisa's story is a little heavier and it lives in a different kind of heart. So she's been in this relationship for a long time and she knows her partner and she knows his moods. She knows how to navigate them. She knows his triggers. And she's gotten really, really good at managing around him, managing her life. And she'll tell you, and she really means this, that this relationship is good. It's better than anything she's had before. But I want you to understand that wherever you're at in your life, better than before doesn't necessarily mean good. And so if these women's stories are inspiring you and you relate to their stories, or maybe you know somebody who can, I really encourage you to share them with somebody that you know. Like my episode, subscribe to my podcast. Women need to do better. And the way we do that is by lifting each other up. And we all have stressors in our lives. We all have things that pull us down and weigh heavy on us. And so if you've got 3 minutes to spare, take my free survival test mode, stress test that's in the link below, and where you might be leaking out your energy. Because you can't fix a problem that you don't know exists, right? And we'll continue to have conversations here. We'll continue to build this community. We'll continue to support each other. Thanks for listening to the whole thing. Please hit subscribe, and I will see you next Monday. And don't forget your cup of coffee. I love you guys.